Shana Tova. Umituka. Yoter. We did this last night as a way of greeting. Let's have a good new year, a sweet new year, a better new year. Let's take a nice deep breath. We have arrived at 5785, and that is a lucky thing to be at. I'd like to invite up the Sapphires, who are sitting on the seats that they sponsored. So wonderful. David just gave me the I stink eye. On page 111, responsibly.
Ma Tovu, how good they are, these tents of Jacob. How beautiful the homes where Israel dwells. Bless. And blessed are we who share this house, which shelters us where we belong. This house of Torah, this house of love, sacred assembly and strength. In small and humble rooms, in splendid sanctuaries, today our people greet the turning of the year. We stand with all of them this morning, grateful we're alive to meet this day, the first dawning of the year. For all of us, no matter where we've traveled, come back to celebrate the season of return. Give praise to this morning, give thanks for our gathering, give ears to the ancient call that brings us home. Our hearts rise up in hope, our spirits reach for new beginnings. Our voices too lift up a melody that celebrates today. How good they are, these tents of Jacob, how beautiful the homes where Israel dwells. Here in this place of prayer and song, hear the call that stirs the soul. All may enter, let none stand apart. Sisters and brothers, how beautiful and how good.
Bruce Corus, who will be doing the announcements later, is going to welcome us officially.
He remembered me this morning. I told him he started off the new year with a bad mark. Lashana Tova, everyone. How wonderful is it for us to be together here in our brand new sanctuary with our beautiful blue carpeting and blue chairs and blue skies that we can see through our new windows. It's a wonderful feeling for us to all be together as we usher in a new year filled with new hope, new beginnings for us, and we say goodbye to an old year that was not the best of years for our community. Last year we were here on Rosh Hashanah, and just 3 weeks later, October 7th, and it changed our world, and it was something we are still dealing with today. But today, we can focus on the positive, and we can look ahead to a new year, a better year, as the rabbi said, which, by the way, he stole my line, but that's okay. But let's look ahead to a happy new year, a healthy new year, a safe new year, an uneventful new year, and a better new year for all of us. And we're beginning it in the best way possible. We're together with our family and friends and in a wonderful new space. One quick housekeeping note, because we have people who are not here on a regular basis. A quick reminder that if we have a medical emergency of any kind, we have a first aid kit out in the lobby, we have a defibrillator in the lobby, we have a stop the bleed kit. If you should find yourself needing to leave the sanctuary in a hurry, the rabbi's sermon goes too long, I'm telling a lousy joke, whatever the case may be, just remember, we have the exits over there through our beautiful new doors, and you can go out into the lobby and go left through the glass doors and go out to the front lawn, go over to the right, and go back into the parking lot. And then we also have an exit over there on that side. And we have one up front, but we've got the choir up there and some wires.
Well,
they can go up the steps?
We have a staircase.
Okay, so if you need to use it. Again, that's in the extremely unlikely event of needing it. And again, if you have a medical emergency, I know we have some medical personnel in our sanctuary. And if the medical personnel don't do their job, we have lawyers in the sanctuary as well. So, the rabbi and the cantor have prepared a wonderful service for us this morning as we usher in a better new year. Lashana Tova, everyone.
We continue on page 135 with Psalm 150. All of our breath sing God's praises. We turn to page 142 and we rise for our call of community, those of you that are able, and look around at our beautiful and gorgeous community we have gathered here today. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvarei choshek oseh shalom uvarei et hakol. Blessed are you, God, who is with us in times of light and darkness whenever we need. We continue on page 147. I'd like to bring up Craig Small for the reading I Am the Blossom. As he's coming up here, if you haven't had a chance to read in the Buffalo News today, his wonderful heroic heroism at the Rolling Stones concert. It's well worth the read.
Hashanah Tova. I am the blossom, pressed in a book, found again after 200 years. I am the maker, the lover, and the keeper. When the young girl who starves sits down to a table, she will sit beside me. I am food on the prisoner's plate. I am water rushing to the wellhead, filling the pitcher until it spills. I am the patient gardener of the dry and weedy garden. I am the stone step, the latch, and the working hinge. I am the heart contracted by joy, the longest hair white before the rest. I am there in the basket of fruit, presented to the widow. I am the musk rose opening, unattended, the fern on the boggy summit. I am the one whose love overcomes you, already with you when you think to call my name. All life springs from a single fountainhead. Listen, Israel, know the oneness at the heart of multiplicity. With love and reverence, bear witness to Mechor HaChaim.
Page 150, Shema. You may be seated, page 152 and 54. 53. Jill Hamilton will lead us in the Via Hafta.
Ooh, the large print version. Via Hafta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavecha hayom halevavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'ribarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'vlechtecha b'derech Ukumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot beninecha, uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha, leman tiskaru, vasitem ekol mitzvotai, Hitem Hiroshim Lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher Hotzeiti Echem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot Lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
If you hear those beautiful sounds, that melodic sounds from the back and the front, we have so many joyous that are communicating without any words, and I know those are prayers that are going to go right up to heaven. We're going to turn to page 155, and we have Alan, Gellin, and Robin Raphael to lead us in the prayer and the meditations on the Shema.
Israel, your covenant with God is made of choices, holiness or profanity, life or destruction. You can never keep from choosing.
If you set yourself to love God with everything you have, to obey God with your entire heart, God's gifts will be yours. A vital earth, its seas, and continents moving slowly in their own way. The rain and sun and snow and clouds forming and changing, each in their own way.
If God's unity is always before you, all these will nourish and delight even longer than your days. The hills, the rainforests, the ice flows, and the deserts. The infinity of life that nests and grows here on earth with us. Every living thing will bless you, will welcome you as neighbor. What you produce will multiply in goodness, and you will not lack for what you need.
But if you forget God and choose instead to fashion gods of your own, if they spring up everywhere for you in your endless thirst for something undiscovered, you may lose everything you have, your family and your sustenance, your reason for being, and your place of burial. This blue-green earth, so beautiful, so solitary, is as fragile as you are and as precious.
Beware lest in giving away to excess you risk too much. Remember this and take it to heart. Teach it to those who come after you. Place it in their hands, plant it in their minds. Meditate on these things at home and on the road, awake and asleep, in the beginning and at the end. Try to find them in every place we call our home.
We continue with the Mi Chamocha, page 164, with the holiday melody.
שיר חדשה שבקום גאולים לשמך על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו ימלכו ואמרו ישראל, ובטחנו מחם וישראל. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
I invite you to rise, those of you that are able. We continue with our silent meditation, which begins on page 166. Take an opportunity for your own private prayers and devotions, and whenever you're ready, you may be seated. Continue in the middle of page 168, Zokrenu Lechaim. Remember us, please God, for life. Page 174, we move to the Unatana Tokef. This, every year, is probably our hardest prayer. It's about the reality that we don't know what the next hour, day, month, year holds for us, or our families, or friends, community. This year in particular, these words are going to hit us hard. If you read them, you'll feel them, because just like at other moments in Jewish history, they speak to us so profoundly today. In the middle of the page, let us proclaim together. Let us proclaim the power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love, your reign is a reign of truth. Page 176. Together. And so a great shofar will cry, Tekiah. A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, Behold the day of judgment, for they too are judged. In your eyes even they are not blameless. All who come into this world pass before you like sheep before their shepherd. As a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath the staff, you count and consider every life. You set bounds, you decide destiny, you inscribe judgments. Page 178.
Som was geht
Rosh Hashanah, Yom Som Kippur, Yom Som Kippur, Yom Som Kippur, Yom Som Kippur,
Together. On Rosh Hashanah, this is written. On the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? Who by war and who by beast? Who by famine and who by drought? Who by earthquake and who by plague? Who by strangling and who by stoning? Who will rest and who will wander? Who will be tranquil and who will be troubled? Who will calm and who will tormented? Who will live in poverty and who in prosperity? Who will be humbled and who exalted? On the next page. But through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. Invite up Tara Cartcross on page 197 for an introduction to our shofar service, Remember for Life. Tara also serves as our membership chair, so anyone who has questions, you can go to Tara.
Remembered for life. Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victories with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12, and you keep quiet, and I will go.
I'd like to bring up Stephen Glickman. Oh, he had to step out. Stephen's part of 3 generations of shofar blowers, and I think it looks like he's close to number 4. Little Eli is not quite old enough to blow the shofar, but he's definitely getting close. And for a congregation and community that goes back to the 50s, 4 generations is actually quite a lot in our community. We turn our shofar prayers are on page 206. We invite you to rise, and Cantor will lead us.
Baruch אשר קידשנו במצוותיו, וציוונו לשמוע קול השופר. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Source of blessing, you fill the universe with majestic might, giving us life, upholding the life within us, and bringing us to this time. And Eli has been brought over so he can hear directly. Okay, ready? Tikia. Shivarim Trua. Tikia. Tikia. Shivarim. Tikia. Tikia. Trua. And together, Tikia Gedola.
Otinu
seated. By the way, those of you coming in, we do have more seats kind of in the front on my right over here. So if anyone wants to get a little closer, feel free. Shana Tova Umituka Yoter. A good new year, a sweet new year, a better new year. Last night, Russ Grosser taught me that this has been something going around in the Jewish world, a new way of greeting. Just like so many things have changed, this is a new way we greet one another. 15 seconds. The time it takes you to tie your shoe, text a loved one, or sing the Shema. It is also the time a resident of southern or northern Israel has to find shelter during a rocket attack. 15 seconds from the time the siren begins to sound until the explosion. 15 seconds, that is all. Barely enough time to think, let alone to find safety. I learned this the hard way. Back in the summer of 2014, a decade ago, I was part of a 5-day Federation mission to Israel. 5 days, we went in one day, had 3 days there, went out. This was purely business. We would swoop in, meet with officials, hear about the circumstances on the ground, and head out again. That June, 3 Israeli teens, Eyal, Yifrak, Gilad Shair, and Naftali Frankel, all aged 16 through 19, had been abducted from their homes in the West Bank and brutally murdered. Suddenly, rockets were being launched into the heart of Israel, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Gaza. Sound familiar? Unfortunately, way too familiar. Our very first trip as a congregation was postponed because of that. In response, Israel launched Operation Protective Edge to both stop the rockets and restore peace. We, the Americans, were there as witnesses. On the third day of our visit, we had an opportunity to leave our hotel in Tel Aviv and head down to Stay Road. Now, those of you familiar with Stay Road is right on the border of Gaza, and it's the largest city on the border of Gaza. This is where 15 seconds came into play. It's less than 2 miles away. It meant we would only have those 15 seconds in the event of an attack. Much to the chagrin, and definitely against the advice of both of our wives, Rabbi Perry Netter and I, we were the Buffalo contingent, decided to go. It was very funny. Well, not so funny, but when we got down there, both of our wives called us at the same exact time, saying, "What are you doing down there?" They had talked to each other. We had to travel by van for the simple reason that you can get off a van a lot quicker than you can off a bus. While inside, one of the instructors actually held out a stopwatch, ticking down the seconds, tick, tick, tick. In that amount of time, we had to collectively scurry out of the van, throw ourselves on the ground. After several tries, we were more or less successful. So we headed out with our hearts pounding like a stopwatch directly from the heart of Israel into the heart of the conflict. Once there, we heard stories from school teachers, students, first responders, political leaders, and residents. We met in various different places. Every place we met, whether a school or immigration center, was a built-in shelter. Over and over, they had the same message. While the rocket attacks were terrifying, what really kept them up at night was something entirely different. It had to do with the sounds they would hear every night as they attempted to fall asleep. Sounds they described over and over again, person to person, like mice burrowing underneath their homes. Sounds they knew to be Hamas with heavy equipment from several miles away, building tunnels underneath the ground. Sounds that meant that Hamas was coming. Even back then, the residents of State Roads had reason to fear this very scenario. It was widely known that they were building tunnels and aimed to attack the residents of southern Israel. At that time, we learned later, it was only luck and Israelis' military might, that foiled those initial plans. When news of the brutal, unprovoked attack came to us in early mornings of October 7th on Simchat Torah last year, I instantly flashed back to those conversations I had in 2014. And I knew two things. One, how right the residents had been. And two, that today, that day, was only the beginning. What was to follow would be far worse. In rabbinical school, we often talked about something we called the Lackermost theory of Jewish history. Lackermost, it's kind of a funny word. It means given to weeping or intensely sad. If sad had a color, Lackermost would be its name. And we love to say this word, to prove ourselves. As rabbinical students, we would, different students would just offer it up in the middle of class as often as we could. It was coined by a Jewish historian, Salo Baron, who in 1928 published an article where he proposed that in order to understand the history of the Jews in any age and place, it was essential first to study what the Jews were doing between the attacks, what they were thinking, writing, creating, selling, buying. Surely, he wrote, it is time to break with the Lackermost theory in pre-revolutionary woe and to adopt a view more in accord with historic truth. He meant that it wasn't just the attacks, pogroms, and all that. There were other good things as well. So while it was cute for us, being ordained in 2004, to use this word over and over again, and we were going into one of the most optimistic periods in all of Jewish history, in 2024, we understand the Lackermost theory of Jewish history because we are now living in it. October 7th, I don't have to tell you, was the single largest attack on the Jewish world since the Holocaust. I keep telling people that this year has been the hardest year of my Jewish life. This was a pogrom, just like the ones that chased my family, many of yours, to America at the turn of the 20th century. Brutal, bloody, government-led. Over the course of a few hours, 1,139 seniors, women, children, babies were taken from their beds, their streets, their fields, their concert venues by unknown assailants to be beaten and murdered. Worse yet, 250 peaceful Israeli citizens were dragged with their hands tied behind their backs at gunpoint into the tunnels of Gaza. The same tunnels that kept the residents of State Road up at night a decade ago. Now, 363 days later, only 101 still remain in captivity. At least a third of those hostages have already died. 363 days later, we are still living in the aftermath of that one day. I also keep telling people, we are still in October 7th. We haven't moved to October 8th. How can you grieve during the time and the year we've had? We have officially entered the Lackermost theory of Jewish history. The scholar, Dr. Yehuda Kurtzer, who runs the Hartman Institute in Jerusalem, says the reason why October 7th has been so impactful in the Jewish community is not only because of the events themselves, but because of the way those events have shattered several long-standing myths we had about ourselves. Number one, and this is for Israeli society, that Hamas wouldn't be capable of such an attack. Number two, that the liberal order would work to protect Jews. And number three, that Zionism and Israel had solved the Jewish problem. October 7th was not only an attack on the Jewish people, it was an attack on the Jewish psyche. In many ways, we have spent this past year not only lamenting the tremendous loss of life on that day, but our collective loss of faith. There's a reason that three officers now stand guard outside of our synagogue doors. We no longer feel safe inside of them. How many of you this year have thought twice about wearing something, a t-shirt, a hat, a necklace that identifies you as Jewish? Raise your hand if that's the case. How many of you have thought twice about attending a Jewish-run event? How many of you have thought twice about entering a Jewish space? This is what October 7th has taken from us. And yet, that's not been our only response. For some of us, October 7th gave us a reason and the need to bear our Judaism more openly. For those of you this is the case, let me ask a completely different set of questions, and I noticed this on lots of people today. How many of you have started wearing things that identify you as part of the Jewish community? How many of you have deliberately attended more Jewish events than you would have in the past? How many of you are here today, at least in part, because of October 7th? I'm not here to judge your responses, just name them. We balance our fear, our yirah, with our faith, our emunah. Take a moment to think back to that fateful Saturday morning in early October. How many of you remember exactly where you were when you heard the news? How many of you will never forget where you were when you heard the news? Events like Pearl Harbor, Kennedy assassination, 9/11, October 7th, shape us as human beings. All these years later, I've come to realize that most of my work in interfaith spaces has been formed because I was a rabbi when September 11th happened. I was in rabbinical school. 10/7, October 7th, has created just as much a seismic shift within the Jewish community, an absolute crater that we have not even begun to process, let alone understand. They just had a report on the news about hurricanes. Usually like we just had this horrendous one, Helene. I don't know if you saw this. I read in the Buffalo News this morning. And they said that, yes, they said a couple dozen people had died, but actually the result of hurricanes are thousands of people, a 6%. And that the same because of all the changes, not directly killed by the hurricane, but by everything in it. It's the same thing when you have seismic events like October 7th. In 2 decades of being a rabbi, I've never had as many conversations about people's Jewish identities than I have this year. I have seen people come out of the woodwork who have never walked into a synagogue in their lives, but who have some sort of Jewish family or some semblance of a Jewish identity, suddenly feel a need to talk to me. I've seen active members with clear Jewish identities who have attended services and been part of the community for years, now unsure, completely unsure what to think or what to feel. I've heard horror stories from workplaces, college campuses, political venues, seniors in high school applying to colleges based on whether they would feel safe as Jews, people leaving jobs that they loved or starting new ones as well. This hasn't just happened once, twice, but again and again and again and again and again. Sometimes as much as once a week. The news, as we see, has become unbearable. For many of us, being Jewish has made us feel angry, scared, isolated, and alone. We have always been a small minority in America and an even smaller one in the larger world, less than 0.02%. Now we have been made to feel like one. Post-October 7th has been a time where we both hide our Magen Davids and bear them openly, bravely share our faith and shelter in silence, affirm our identities and run away from them. Conflicting emotions, circles that cannot be squared. As a rabbi, I wish I had answers for you, but I have just as many questions as the rest of you. The speed of change has left my head spinning. The speed of change has left all of our heads spinning. 15 seconds, the time it takes you to tie your shoe, text a loved one, sing the Shema. A short amount of time that can feel like an eternity. 15 seconds is all it took for the news of October 7th to sink in last year. 15 seconds was all that it took to change. On Rosh Hashanah, we don't count seconds with a stopwatch. We count them with verses of the Torah. The two primary stories that we read on Rosh Hashanah from the book of Genesis, the banishment of Hagar and the binding of Isaac, take place in the matter of seconds Torah time. The banishment of Hagar, 21 verses. The binding of Isaac, 19. In each of them, the clock ticks as the fate of our first family hangs in the balance. No moment is more intense, all these years later, no matter how many times we read it, than that moment where Abraham raises the knife as if to go down to Isaac's neck. On that altar atop that unknown mountain, the fate of all of our people, indeed all of monotheism, was in jeopardy. No matter how many times I read it, Genesis 22, verse 10, I still feel my heart racing. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took his knife to slay his son. What will Abraham decide? We know. But it still comes to us. How will Isaac react? Where will God be? Tick, tick, tick. In the end, disaster is averted, but the pain of that moment hovers over us as if we were Isaac, bound, afraid, helpless, a collective PTSD that has lasted to this day. Rosh Hashanah freezes us in that moment, asks us to consider what if the worst happens, so that when it does, we have at least considered that possibility. 363 days ago, the worst did happen. This coming Monday marks the 1-year anniversary of October 7th. We arrive at this knowing that sirens to continue to go off on a nightly basis. The residents of southern Israel and northern Israel continue to run to safety or to be in shelter. And the night of terrors I learned out about a decade ago about mice burrowing and armies emerging continues to keep the residents of southern and northern Israel up at night. Palestinian and Jewish children continue to cry out in pain. The brokenness of our world continues. We can't move back. October 6th is not a possibility. We can only move forward. The question to all of us is, how will we use our 15 seconds? Will we use it to attack one another, rage against the world, or will we use it to text our loved ones, to hold them, to make sure everything is okay? I'm going to bring up our shofar blowers. Whoever has a shofar here, invite everyone to rise. We're going to listen to a slightly longer tekiah, lasting approximately 15 seconds. Use that time to consider what you would do, to look around at our community, to share love and compassion that we all need in this moment. Use that time to reflect on the horrors and begin to consider the possibility of this coming year to come. Together we say tekiah. Tekiah! In spite of everything, I wish you, as I always do, a Shana Tova Umituka Yoter, a sweet, a healthy, a better, and a happy new year. You may be seated. We turn in our leaflet, if we are loved like that.
If we love like that. I don't know if it made it to this year's leaflet. Okay, don't worry about that. Just listen closely. The words are beautiful.
There
days be lighter? How could the heart feel? How might the lands get wider if we loved like that? Really loved like that? Who could be saved? How might the world be softer? Who could your heart heal? What is the gift you'd offer if we loved like that? Really loved like that?
Page 228, sorry, page 223. We're going to turn to the Avinu Malkeinu. And invite you to rise as the ark is opened. We're going to recite together, actually responsively, 223. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and on our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chataru Lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Hamol Aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu,
We remain standing for the Torah service, page 228. Any of the Torah carriers, if you could come up. Okay, I don't see anyone. At the top, the 13 attributes, 228.
Adonai, Adonai, Berchanu, Erev Habayim, Verav Chesed Ve'emet, Moshe Chesed La'alafim, L'se'avon v'afesha, v'chata'a v'nakeh.
Responsibly in the middle of 228.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
We turn to the Torah reading from Genesis 21, page 238. We do, for those of you coming up for an Aliyah, we do have the blessings here on both the Reconstructionist and Reform version. And for the first Aliyah, first of all, invite up Harvey Horowitz, who'll be the reader. I'll give him the yad. And for the first Aliyah, Mitch and Vicky Rubin. Ya tam do yam do. Mitch and Vicky Laliyah Harishona. Here, let's find it. It's right here. No, right here. Sorry, it's one. There you go. Sorry, right there at the bottom. Maybe I'll stand. I'll let them stand and hold that side.
I'll change places with you for the second and third Aliyah.
This one. Okay, so it's, if you want to touch with, take this, go on that side.
Touch and kiss.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu.
No, at the very top.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hambarah.
Baruch Adonai Amborach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarah Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher barshabanu mekol ha'amin v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Mitch, can you hold this right here?
Amen. V'Adonai pakad et zara ka'asher amar vayas Adonai l'sara ka'asher diber Vatar vateled Sarah leAvraham ben lizkunav lamoed asher diber oto Elohim. Vayikra Avraham et Shem beno hanolad lo asher yalada lo Sarah Yitzchak. Vayamol Avraham et Yitzchak beno ben Shemonat Yamim kaasher tziva oto Elohim. V'Avraham ben me'at shana b'hivaled lo et Yitzchak beno. V'atomer Sarah tzechok asali Elohim kol hashomeya Yitzchak li.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'chayenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Yeshua Koach, the beautiful sanctuary.
For the second Aliyah, first we're going to have Jen and Mark Rosen are going to be reading from the Torah. Harvey is shifting places with me. He's now the Gabbai, the spotter for the Torah. And we have for the Aliyah, Michael and Joanne Berger. Yamdu, the burgers. Oh, there they are, okay. If you want to touch.
Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Vatomer mi melel Avraham eini kavanim Sarah ki yaladati vein liz kunav vayigdal hayeled vayigamal vayas Avraham mishte gadol Beyom higamel et Yitzhak Vatere Sarah et ben Hagar hamitzri asher yalada Avraham metzahek.
Vatomer li Avraham garesh ha'ama hazot ve'et bena ki lo yirash ben hama'a hazot im beni im Yitzchak vayera hadavar me'od b'nei Avraham al odot beno vayomer Elohim el Avraham al yira b'einecha al hana'ar ve'al amartecha kol asher tomar elecha Sarah shema bekola ki b'Yitzchak v'karei lecha Zara v'gam et ben ha'ama Legoy asimenu, ki zaracha hu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah amaz, v'hayei olam natav v'sohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Beautiful, no, you did great. And for the third Aliyah, we're verse 14. Ronnie DeBrowen is going to be our Torah reader, and we invite up for the Aliyah Barry and Evie Weinstein, and I guess John DeBrowen, because Ronnie, I guess you can be in two places. You're there.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
I'll put that up.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, I already did one.
It's okay. I'm just short.
Yeah, I use it too. You didn't see it.
Amen. Vayashkem Avraham baboker, vayikach lechem, vahemat mayim, vayitain el hagar, sam al shikma, ve'et hayeled, vayishalchecha vatelech vateta, B'midbar ba'er shava, vayichlu hamayim min hachemet, vatashlech et hayeled tachat achat hasihim, vatelech vateshef lach mineged harhek, Kim tachavi keshet ki amra al ar'eb b'mot hayeled vateshev mineged vatisa et kola vatevke vayishma Elohim et kol hana'ar Vayikra malach Elohim el Hagar min hashamayim, vayomer lach malach Hagar al tiri ki shama Elohim el kol hana'ar ba'asher husham, kumi sa'i et hana'ar v'hachaziki et yadech bo ki lagoy gadol asimenu, vayivkach Elohim et enecha, vaterech ba'er mayim, vatelech vatmalech et hachemet mayim, vatashk et hana'ar, vahi Elohim et hana'ar vayigdal, vayeshev b'midbar, vahi roveh kashat, vayeshev b'midbar paran, Tikach lo imo Isa me'eretz Mitzrayim.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam notav Eloheinu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Okay, let's see. Who can I pick on? Walter, come over here. And Diane, why don't you come up? We're going to lift the Torah, and we're going to dress it. So we're going to invite everyone to rise. Heavy. You may be seated. We're turning to the Haftarah, and that can be found on page 247. Oh, hold on, before we do that, we forgot to do the Misha Barak. Should we do that? Yeah, let's, before we bring up Jeffrey here, we're going to turn to our healing blessings. And the Misha Barak we're doing is on 244 at the top. I'm going to read our list of names. As a community, we are thinking about Neil Agnita, Hope Bongiorno, Dave Cohen, Reverend Jim Callahan, Ethan Carvalho, Virginia Ellis, Gloria Fine, Barbara Frieda, Carol Gettings, Denise and Jarrett Gilden, Dick Gordon, Carolyn Ernie Grosser, Maya Ruth Corin Matlock, Charlie Levin, Miles Levy, Gail Lewis, Jake Lipshin, Anthony Legalbo, Shelby Madsen, Michael Malik, Howard Lewis Myers, Terry Miller, Gail Nosenchuk, Judy Osowitz, Melania Puyas, Angela Robillard, Cheryl Rossi, Cindy Rotella, David Rovner, Brandon Ryan, Rana Schultz, Deb Serino, Carol Silverman, Wyatt Alexander Simpson, Gary Spiceman, Robin Weinstein, Mike Wheeler, Gail Zaretsky, Jillian Zabala, Chana Bat Shoshana Meyer Yaakov, Carla Bat Chana, Ruvain Ben Moshe, Yosef Ben Zissel, Hindasara Bat Rachel, and Chana Ezra Ben Shul. And we'll go around, just raise your hands if you have others.
Marshall Friedman and all the Israeli soldiers have been injured in the war.
Mark Rodman and Sharon Castellano.
Linda Gross. Charles Reagan.
Gilthany, Sheldon Cohen, and Brenda Cohen.
Sheila Chato, Judy Goldstein, Marcia Tucker.
We collect all those names to our hearts. Again, the prayer is there on page 244 at the top.
Misheberach Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak veYaakov. Misheberach Imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, veRachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may fathers hear our prayer, 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 and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Bless us with the vision for tomorrow. Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Misheberach Avotenu, Misheberach Avotenu. Hear our prayer, 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 and bless us as well. Hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as
The Haftorah, the additional reading, can be found, the blessings before on page 247, and the text on 250. Jeffrey Horowitz is going to be doing the honor of reading. You guys are just too tall in your family. If you want this was bigger, it's okay. Perfect.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nevim tovim v'ratzah v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'v'nevi'ei hamet v'tzedek. Vayhi ish echad min har matayim, tzofim mehar Ephraim, ushmo Elkanah, ben Yerocham, ben Elihu, ben Tohu, ben Suf Ephrati, velo shetei nashim, Shem achat Chana, v'shem hashenit Penina, vayhi lifnina yeladim, uchana en yeladim, ve'ala ha'ish hahu me'iro mi'amim yamima, l'hishtachavot v'lizboach, l'Adonai tzevaot b'shilo, v'sham shenei v'nei Eli, chapni ufi nechas, kohanim l'Adonai. Vayhi hayom, vayizbach Elkanah, v'natan lifnina ishto, uchobaneha, uvenoteha manot, uchana yiten, mana achat apayim, ki et chana ahev, v'Adonai sagar rachma, v'chiasata tzarata gam ka'as, ba'avor har'ima, ki sagar Adonai ba'arachma, v'chein ya'aseh shana v'shana, midei alota bevet Adonai, ken tach'isena, v'tivke v'lo tocha, v'yomer la Elkanah isha, Chana Lame tivki, ve'lame lo tochi, ve'lame yera levavech, halo anochi tov lach, me'asara banim, v'takam Chana acharei, achra v'shilo ve'acharei shato, v'alei hakohen, Yoshev al hakisei al mezuzat hechal Adonai. Vehi marat nafesh v'tipalel al Adonai uchvot tivkeh v'tidor neder v'tomar Adonai tzevaot imra'ot tir'eh ba'anei amatecha Uzachartani v'lo tishkach et amatecha v'natata amatecha zera anashim u'netativ l'Adonai kol yemei chayav u'mora lo ya'ale al rosho. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam Tzor kol ha'olamim, tzadik bechol hadarot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah, ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al ha'nevi'im, ve'al yom hazikaron hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, Lechavod uletif aret. Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, u'mevarchim otach, yipara shimcha, befi kol chai tamid le'olam va'ed, udvaracha emet v'kayam la'ad. Baruch atah Adonai, Melech al kol haaretz, Mekadesh Yisrael. Melech al kol haaretz, Mekadesh Yisrael. Melech al kol haaretz, Mekadesh Yisrael. Beyom hazikaron.
like to bring up our synagogue president, Todd Sugarman.
Everybody hear me? Okay, good. Good morning. I'd like to start off by saying we might live here in the safe borders of the United States. And although my president's speech has some predictable subjects, our hearts are with the people of Israel and the soldiers who've lost their lives this past year and these past few days. My speech on Rosh Hashanah is to give you an idea of how we are doing, the State of the Temple speech. And I realize after writing so many of these speeches that we have really grown over these 12 years. So please bear with me, as this speech might be a little longer than usual, as I have a lot of people to thank and a lot of things to talk about. So with that said, I want to start by thanking our spiritual leaders. It starts at the top with Rabbi Alex and Cantor Frank. I say this every year, and I'm going to say it again. Cantor Frank amazes me. She's always coming up with new and innovative ideas that she encompasses in all her services. She always seems to be rehearsing. And she works extremely hard, and it shows in all the work she does. I've been around many rabbis in my 25 years of temple life, and Rabbi Alex is one of a kind. He's either at temple meeting with people in need or out in the community helping people in need. Whenever there is a Jewish issue in the world or in the community, you notice the first person news people come to? It's our rabbi, Rabbi Alex. I told this to congregants at one of our Friday outdoor services this year. Rabbi Alex was on a 6-week sabbatical this past year, and normally clergy just don't want to be disturbed during that time. Well, our rabbi is not like that. Rabbi Alex always answers our phone calls, no matter if he's on sabbatical or vacation. We can always get in touch with him. There is not a do not disturb sign on his door, ever. This demonstrates to me how much he cares about this congregation, and we thank him for that commitment. Thank you. Joanne Marquesi, our executive director, continues to be the hardest working person in this congregation. I'm going to tell you something that very few people know. Those Friday night and Saturday services that you see her at, and you even see her on Sunday morning during religious school, well, those are way above her job title. She is there on those days because of her commitment to you, my fellow congregants. She is also another person who, no matter if she is away for a few days or taking a well-deserved vacation, she will always answer the phone. This year, I presented Joanne with the highest award this temple has, the President's Award. So thank you, Joanne, for all you do. I want to thank Nancy McGordy, our administrative assistant. Nancy will be retiring next month, and we all wish her well. We will miss her. Thank you to Renee Gattosi, our temple bookkeeper. And thank you to our temple council, Barry Radlin, who is that voice over here saying, slow down, Todd, we need to think this through. Barry is always protecting our temple, and on behalf of the entire Board of Trustees and this congregation, thank you. Thank you to Dan Kester, who has continued to be the longest tenured men's group president. His speaker series is highly successful, and Dan is always willing to contribute men's group funds for supplies or items we might have. By the way, his wife, Ganilla, has created the Buffalo Corner Reading Series. It meets once a month here at Temple and is off during the summer months. The series is highly successful and features accomplished poets throughout our community. Thank you, Ganilla, for creating that program. I want to thank the women of Shir Shalom, probably the most active group we have at Temple. Everything they do is successful. They do contribute funds for supplies and items that the temple might need, as well as a very generous contribution to our annual giving campaign. So thank you. I want to thank the Chevettas crew. This now has come to be our largest fundraiser, creating over $30,000 in revenue yearly. It also has created something that every religious organization needs, volunteers. We have over 30 volunteering for the event, and people have realized that they like volunteering and meeting new people. That has contributed to more people volunteering at other events we have. As for the other events we have at this temple, it has become so numerous that at a board meeting during the summer, I expressed to the board members how proud I was that 12 years ago we only had a handful of programs. Now we have programs and events monthly. An example of one of those monthly programs is the Jews for All Hues. This program was created by Evie Weinstein and Ronnie DeBrouwen, with Michael Berger providing all the financing for the program. So thank you, Evie, and thank you, Ronnie, and a special thank you to you, Michael. I also want to thank a special person who I thanked during our annual meeting, but I want to thank him again so all of you know what he does. As most of you all know, my other job at this congregation is head maintenance worker. However, there always is a second in command, and we have one here as well. Larry Pozis, our VP of Finance, and one of the best VP of Finance this temple has ever had, has taken on that role as maintenance worker without anyone asking him to do it. Larry here has a very difficult and time-consuming day job. And as most of you might know, I'll give you a little scenario. As most of you might know, that to prepare for the community religious school on Sunday mornings, we have to put all the desks that are in the Ganenu room, they're stored there, back into the classrooms, because the daycare that runs from us uses that space. It takes 3 guys to make this switch, starting on Saturday morning for 4 hours, and then changing it back Sunday afternoon for another 4 hours. Larry has taken on that job of supervising those 3 guys every weekend for 26 weeks. He not only supervises these guys, he also works as well. He cleans the floors, the bathrooms, and anything that needs to be done to make this changeover. During the 4 months when I'm not here, he becomes the head maintenance guy. During the winter months, he will voluntarily drive over after a snowfall and make sure the sidewalks are shoveled and cleared. And if they are not, he will shovel and salt them himself. Larry and I talk almost every day, and during the winter months, we joke that he is counting the days when I get back so he can go back to his daytime job. I point this out to you so that you can all thank Larry for all the work he does to make sure this building is taken care of. And if you don't know who Larry Pozis is, please stand up, Larry. Please stand up. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I want to thank all the lay leaders who helped me do my job, starting with the Board of Trustees who trust me when I spend temple money. And so you know, every board member is an active participant in our temple. This year, we invited 2 younger congregants, under 30, to join our Board of Trustees, Eliza Berger and Michael Schwartz. And yes, they are the children of 2 of our prominent members. Eliza is the daughter of Michael and Joanne Berger, and Michael is the son of Blaine and Joni Schwartz. So yes, we are planning on being here a long time, and hopefully these 2 young adults will be here to lead the congregation. I want to thank my closest friends in this congregation, and that's the exec committee, our temple officers. Sherry Jo Rice, Tara Cross, Marina Finkelstein, David Sapphire, Joe Glickman, Larry Pozis, Bruce Corris, and our newest member, Evie Weinstein. Between us, we have over 250 years of temple experience. That's a lot of experience. This isn't a once-a-month committee. These people touch this temple on almost a daily basis. I don't believe I've ever gone a week without some kind of communication with at least one member. We are always talking about how we can make this temple a better place, or what different kind of events we can run, either be a fundraiser or just a fun event. You know, I've always said that one of the reasons for our success has been our continuity. Over these 12 years, most of us have been together and have trusted one another. So thank you. I'd like to take you on a short journey, our journey of the 18-month renovation. Last year I stood before you, and at that time we just begun our renovation. The Ungerleider family had just given us a substantial gift to start the renovations in the foyer, At the time, we only had the foyer completed, new foyer drywall, carpeting, and lighting. I explained to you